Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And welcome to Sofa Reviews. Today we're watching the third part in a trilogy of films that are totally unrelated to each other, Dungeons & Dragons 3.
A TV movie released in 2012, it does at least feature the same writer and director of the second film.
More importantly, however, this film doesn't feature Marlon Wayans or Bruce Payne, so we're off to a good start.
The film opens with 5 minutes of narration about a sorcerer selling his soul to demons so that his spirit will live on.
Somehow they manage to convince him that being ripped to shreds and turned into a book is a good idea.
The book corrupts everyone it encounters until the Knights of the New Sun are formed and kill everyone who follows it.
The disciples break the book down into 3 parts and separate them. The knights manage to destroy one part and so assume that they're forever now safe, and we cut to 800 years later.
We see our hero Grayson as he's inducted into the Knights of the New Sun.
As part of his induction, he rejects his former boy band and appeals for the blessing of the sun god Paylor.
Grayson fails to receive his blessing and disappointedly discusses it with his father Anfinn.
I thought I'd be the one to waken it. As did all the other Knights of the New Sun for the past 800 years.
If you've been working that shaft for 800 years without result, I'd imagine you're doing it wrong.
They're interrupted, however, when barbarians attack.
Instead of showing us what could have been an interesting battle, it fades to black, with no explanation as to how Grayson is the only person who survived.
He wakes up and immediately realises that his father has been kidnapped, and so he sets off.
Although with his friends slaughtered and his father missing, the first thing he does is to visit a prostitute.
I just want to talk.
It's your money.
She had spoken to the barbarians and agrees to help Grayson, even taking him shopping.
There's a Shadowkai witch hiring mercenaries in the Green Dragon Inn. She and the barbarians who took your father have been hired by the same master, Lord Shathrax.
Shathrax?
Join their band if you can. Earn their trust. Grayson, you're going to be assailed by evils that can't be fought with a sword.
The purity of my heart is not some commodity that can be traded or bought.
Everything has a price.
Well, you would say that. You're a whore.
Grayson heads into a tavern where he spots the witch Accordia, along with her mercenaries planning their next quest.
He's told he has to kill someone in order to join their little group, and luckily, someone attacks him with a rather loud spear.
The other members of her crew are the Vermin Lord, Kratos, and a thief who has some advice for Grayson.
Shadowkai women believe the best way to a man's heart is through his back.
It's not a heart I'm interested in.
I'll carve that into your gravestone.
That might be quite difficult with one hand.
I'm proficient with both hands at carving.
Yes, at carving. That's clearly the only thing I meant. I definitely wasn't hoping you'd think something else, as if this is some kind of vague chatterblind.
They're interrupted when the dragon flies overhead, attacking some peasants.
Grayson offers his opinion, which receives a considered response.
They head into the dragon's cave, and the Vermin Lord sends his eye to scout out.
His floating eyeball somehow activates a trap that was possibly set up by the dragon.
This alerts the dragon, and he immediately attacks the group.
Luckily, the dragon quickly forgets that it can fly, and so is easily killed.
They find a treasure chest containing a horn as Grayson tries to help the peasants.
He manages to convince them that if they help the peasants, the village will be grateful and reward them, a point which seems so obvious it's ridiculous that none of the others even thought of this.
They're let into the village and receive a hero's welcome.
Although before Grayson can enjoy this, the Vermin Lord does an impression of Hannibal Lecter.
Ever catch a raccoon?
No?
You put an apple inside a box and cut a hole in the side.
That evening, we see that the Vermin Lord enjoys to pass his time by torturing widows.
Meanwhile, a girl starts dancing with Grayson, which seems to annoy Accordia.
The assassin sneaks into the village's treasure store while Accordia drags Grayson off to her bedroom.
You saved my life. By Shadowkai law, you're entitled to my body.
You may ravish me however you see fit.
Why don't we have laws like that?
I mean, have you ever saved someone's life?
I've never had any incentive.
The next day, they try to leave the village with all the treasure, but they find out the gate is locked.
Instead of immediately attacking the group, they decide to have a chat.
Grayson manages to negotiate a deal before things get out of hand.
We'll return half the treasure if you open the gates.
Vermin Lord is bored now.
As the others slaughter guards, Grayson leads the children out to safety.
After the slaughter at the village, Grayson enjoys some character development.
Anyone foolish enough to pledge their life to a god that doesn't give a damn deserves what they get.
Cordelia is dividing the treasure and gives Grayson a new sword.
This allows the Vermin Lord to try out his new chatterblind.
Take it. See how it feels.
It's explained that only the assassin will be going to where Grayson's father is, and he realises that now is the time to act.
He does this by poisoning Kratos, putting his body in a bag of holding along with all of the treasure and throwing it into a lake.
The next morning, they're arguing over Kratos and the missing treasure.
The horn is mine. We had a deal.
Deal? Give me your share of the treasure and you can have the horn.
The assassin takes Grayson hostage, but the Vermin Lord turns his knife into a scorpion.
He claims that he was only bluffing and begs for Grayson's help.
Oddly enough, he doesn't want to help the guy who just had a knife to his throat, and so leaves him to die.
The three head off and they place the horn on the broken statue.
It turns out that fixing the statue summons a creepy undead child.
I'm hungry!
The Vermin Lord explains that they need to prove that they're evil in order to get the cover of the book.
Or just kill it. Quickly. With fire.
The child detects that Cordelia is in love and summons a knight to kill them.
They manage to kill the knight and find the cover of the book in its remains, so really not sure why they had to muck about with the child.
Grayson and Cordelia teleport to Castle Shathrax.
Shathrax has two women talking for him, as he presumably lost a bet and so had to staple his mouth shut.
As he goes off to start preparations for reconstructing the book, Grayson goes off to rescue his father.
Cordelia walks in on Grayson, so he hits her with a spell, despite having never used any magic before or any indication that he was able to do this.
Bizarrely, Grayson's father seems more concerned with what's happened to Grayson than escaping at this point.
I'm not going anywhere with you.
You mean you're not pure anymore? Well, I think I'll just stay here and be tortured, thank you very much.
They struggle away to another room, barricading the door before planning to escape out of the window.
Somehow, Grayson hadn't realised before now that the castle he teleported to was flying.
Now that they can't escape, Grayson's father explains that they have to resort to desperate measures in order to prevent them from getting the liquid pain from his blood.
Grayson decides he'd rather die fighting than kill his own father.
Holy shit, I'm Iron Man!
Vermin Lord is bored now.
It's the man that grants power to the amulet, not the other way around.
Cordelia returns as they take Grayson away to be tortured.
Because Grayson is a true knight of the new sun, they need to use his blood rather than his father's in order to create the ink for the book.
Cordelia starts to feel quite guilty when she witnesses Grayson being tortured and decides to help him.
I guess as she loves him, she knows that he didn't mean to hit her. In fact, she made him do it.
Using the amulet, Grayson kills off all the evil people in the area.
Thankfully, destroying a large amount of evil and saving the world means his father is able to easily forgive him.
Having reconciled with his father, he talks to Cordelia.
Come with me to Gloomrock, Grayson.
And cram our victory over Shathrax down their throats.
Make them choke on our legend.
And then what?
More of the same. A life worth living.
A life of cool adventures and rampant sex? Nah, I'm alright.
So Cordelia teleports away and the film ends. In conclusion, I have to say I really like this movie. It has a lot of good points, including some of the characters, such as the Vermin Lord, who's very interesting and quite intimidating in parts, as well as the Kratos lookalike, who's very likeable throughout the film and has a well-defined backstory and motive.
Although the hero in this film is really quite dull and uninteresting. He whinges like a little girl about not getting the sun god's blessing, then spends most of the time following the witch around like a lovesick puppy, and she herself is also seemingly too polite to actually be intimidating.
To be fair, he's only really dull at the start of the movie. He does actually get interesting when he starts to get some development, having to do horrible things in order to actually learn what it means to be a true knight.
Well, yeah, it is quite a nice change to see a character develop through rather than just good guy kills bad guy for an hour and a half. However, it's still quite odd that in order to become a true hero, he has to have sex with a witch, poison a guy, and then watch someone else die.
There is a lot of good imagery in the film, however, such as the creepy girl in that one scene where I was genuinely freaked out by her appearance and what they had to do in order to progress. And then there's the floating castle, which was actually quite incredible to see in a film. There's not many movies doing that sort of thing, and this comes from a low-budget Dungeons and Dragons film.
Although conversely, a lot of the film looked quite amateurish. It just looks like a bunch of guys in a field doing cosplay. The film itself ends up feeling really rushed at the beginning and at the end, and so just feels like quite an anticlimax.
At the end of the day, the film clearly has a much better understanding of the source material than the first movie, and actually makes it a far more entertaining movie than the second one. And considering it has a lower budget as a TV movie, that's pretty impressive.
Unlike the other two, this film would definitely be improved if it was longer. As it is, it's a very annoying beginning and a rushed and disappointing ending. And you kind of know you've made a bit of a mistake when your prologue sounds more interesting than your entire film.
Give me some food and I'll give you a prize.
I got my 12-sided die and I'm ready to roll with the wizard and my goblin crew. My friends are coming over to my mom's basement bringing Funyuns and the Mountain Dew. I got a big broadsword made out of cardboard.